What's up guys, welcome to the very first Think Tank Thursday Parkour Journeys episode. I'm still working on that title. I'm not entirely sure that we're going to stick with Think Tank Thursday. If you have an idea for a better title, leave me a comment down below and we will change the name to something better. So today we're going to talk about the top things that you need to know when you're starting parkour. Now this isn't just going to be like basic techniques. I'm going to be talking to you about how you need to approach parkour when you first get into it, and this should really help you get over some of those first hurdle blocks that are quite difficult to get over. So let's crack in. The first and most important tip that I want to give you is to do with commitment when you're going for a jump. I have seen too many of my friends and people that are learning parkour half go for a jump, back out in the middle of their jump, and then injure themselves and put themselves out for a week or a couple of weeks or even longer than that. You know, sometimes things like a twisted ankle, that can take like 6 months before you're ready to properly train again and be landing on it. And when you're just starting parkour, that's so counterproductive, obviously, because you just want to crack right in, you want to be going, you want to be learning. So we want to avoid as many injuries as possible. So full commitment is one of the biggest mindset shifts that you need. So what will happen is you'll be looking at a jump and you'll be almost ready to do it, and you're convinced you can do it. Everyone around you is supporting you to do it and you want to go for it, but a lot of your body is saying no, and there's like this discrepancy, and like some of you wants to go and some of you doesn't want to go. Maybe some of your mind is saying yes, some of your mind is saying no, maybe some of your body is saying yes, some of your body is saying no, and sometimes it's very hard to discern which one is which and which one you should listen to. But the very worst thing you can do is middle way go for it. So you've got 3 choices here. You've got 4 choices. The first choice is that you can go for it, fully commit, jump, make it, happy days. The second choice is that you can not go for it, decide you're not ready for it, not quite, you know, pull out, that's fine. You've looked at it for a while, you'll come back to it when you're ready, and that's cool too, like no worries. The third option is that you know that you have practiced your bounce off techniques, your fail safe techniques, your everything you need to go for a jump, not quite make it, and bounce off. But you need to know that that's what you're going for before you go for it, okay? It's different when you like don't quite make a jump and you bounce off. That's one of the things that you can go through. Or you can intentionally go for a bounce off where you'll jump, you'll hit the wall a little lower than maybe you want to, or well, you were planning to get there, but it's a little lower than the top of the wall, and then you'll bounce down and you'll be fine too. The fourth option, the worst thing that you can do is like convince yourself that you're going to go for this jump, not really be convinced on the inside that you're going for this jump, and then attempt it but back out halfway through. Now, a lot of people will have experienced this and you'll know what I'm talking about, but if you haven't yet, it would be great if you could if you never had to experience this. So when you're going to go for a jump, you want to be absolutely certain of the outcome, and you don't want to be convincing yourself that you're ready for something that you're not ready for. And you'll be able to tell by just looking into how you actually feel about it. If you're there and you're like around people maybe, and on the surface you're like, yep, I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it, but you know like inside that you're not ready to go yet, but you force it anyway, a lot of the time that's when you'll back out and you'll go for the jump a little bit, you'll back out, and then you end up in a position that you can't deal with, your body can't take, like you'll roll an ankle or you'll bash a knee or something like that can put you out. You'll injure yourself because you went for the jump, you backed out, you hit that middle way, and nothing about it is good, basically. And your body won't quite be able to deal with the scenario, especially if you weren't expecting it and you're still in a half freak out because you didn't quite go for the jump. So it's like that old proverb, you know, you walk either the left side of the road, the right side of the road, don't walk in the middle, because that's where you get hit and you'll get squished. And that is exactly it with parkour. Either do it, don't do it, be ready for a bounce off if you're gonna half go, like if you're gonna not quite make it, but do that intentionally. Do not walk in the middle, don't get squished. Don't do a jump and then back out halfway. That is the absolute worst thing to do. And we all know the classic example of this is if you go for a backflip. If you're just learning backflips and you back out halfway, what are you gonna do? You're gonna land on your head, right? So Yeah, full commitment. That is your very first thing. You need to make sure that you got your mind right. The second tip I want to talk about is that your mind might be ready before your body is. So a tendency when you start parkour is that you're exploring your body and you are learning to move in new ways, and you're learning that all these new things are possible, and you sometimes aren't aware of the kind of impact you're actually taking with different jumps. And it's hard because you are learning something new, so it's really difficult to tell what's going on with your body. But you want to make sure that your body is ready for the jumps that you're doing, meaning that if you can't stick a jump and sort of land it and accept the impact and control it, then you shouldn't be doing that jump. I don't want to see, you shouldn't be throwing a huge jump and then landing like full foot, no control, bouncing forward. Like, the telltale signs for having your body not ready for what your mind is ready for is that you lack control in the jump. So if you're sending a massive jump and then you're landing in like an uncontrolled squat and like full foot slappy landing, and like your body lurches forward and you haven't stuck the jump, there's no control there. You can tell the difference between a controlled jump and a non-controlled jump. So if you're throwing yourself into these positions, and I'm not saying that everything has to be super pretty, especially when you're starting, it's just not gonna be, but you wanna feel like your body is in a controlled state, because if it's not, then you're probably doing damage to something like your knees, your hips, or your ankles. You wanna make sure that your body is fully prepared for what you're doing. Even if your mind's saying go, 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 even if you're one of those lucky people where the mind isn't the problem, then you have to pay attention to whether your body is ready for what you're doing. And you can do that by just feeling out whether you feel like it's controlled, whether it's fluky, if you could repeatedly put your body in the same position and not do damage, and to check in with your body with things like yoga and mobility and other stuff that we teach on this channel. This will really be a big hindrance to you if you just keep smashing through your body. Like, your body will just say no, and you won't be able to continue with parkour because you'll smash it up. You need to make sure that you're controlling your movements first. So the third tip is the flip side of that, which is sometimes your body will be ready before your mind. It just depends on what kind of person you are. If you're someone who's come into parkour with a lot of fear and you're overcoming those fears, a lot of the time your body will be ready before your mind. And it's your job to recognize that. If you're holding yourself back, if you've done the same jump over and over for like months and you're like, yeah, I can do this jump, but I'm just not pushing myself, you're not expanding your comfort zone. You just want to be making sure that you test yourself regularly and that you push your comfort zone, okay? A good sign that your body is ready before your mind is when you know that you can jump further on the floor, for example, and than you will do on like a wall or a high up wall. And the things that you can do to like help your mind catch up, I've got a whole video on fear on this channel that will help your mind catch up massively. You can spend your time learning the fail safes, like the bounce off, the parkour ukemi as we call it, where you are ready for any scenario, and so you can hit the wall or the rail at any angle and still be absolutely fine. Practicing your landing shapes, making sure you've got control of the landing, that will help you. All of this will help you feel like you're a lot more safe in parkour. But just keep an eye on making sure that you basically want to try and keep your mind and your body progressing at the same level at the same time, so that one's not getting left behind. Try and keep them at the same level if you can. You're in a much better position if your body is more ready than your mind, because obviously your body is something you want to take care of and will always be your instrument with parkour. Your mind is kind of the inhibitor chip, what it will let you do. But you want to try and keep them at the same sort of level. Fourth thing I want to talk about is that you want to think about parkour a little bit less like you're learning new skills and a little bit more like you're relearning to trust your body and learning that your body can actually do a lot more than you think it can. This is a topic that I'm going to go way deeper in on another video, so make sure that you subscribe and stick around. If you're new here, make sure that you subscribe because we're covering so many topics on parkour, and how, if you're just getting into parkour, this is going to be brilliant for you. Even if you're like long-term parkour, this is something that will be really helpful for you, so make sure you subscribe. So when you're doing parkour, we tend to have this kind of thought process, especially when you're learning, that it's like, I'm going to learn the Kong vault, I'm going to learn the speed vault, I'm going to learn the precision. But the world is it's helpful to have those boxes, but the world is a lot more messy than that. Different jumps have different sizes, different landings, different surfaces, different angles. There's just so much variety, and it's less about learning these specific techniques, and it's a lot more about learning to trust your body and let it do what it can already do. A big example of this I usually use is when you're balancing, and when you're walking along a rail, for example, and you can try this out, you might be thinking like, oh, you know, balance is a technique that must be learned, and it's learned through time of practice. And whilst that's kind of true in terms of the more you do it, the better you'll get at it, it's more so that when you learn to trust your body and you put out of your mind that there's even the possibility of falling over, your balance increases tenfold immediately. Because if you can just keep your mind at bay, because when you're thinking, I'm gonna fall off here, I'm gonna fall off there, I'm gonna fall off, like I could fall off, I don't wanna fall off, you're putting your mind on all these things that you don't want and not focusing on what you do want. And the best way to deal with this is just to get rid of the mind altogether and just practice trusting yourself. Go out and try it, get on a rail, do it how you would normally do it if you're not very good at balancing, and if you've just started out, walk along a rail, and then try it just for as a thought experiment. Just try what I've said. Completely trust yourself. Presume you're someone who can walk along a rail, and I bet you any money you'll be able to just stroll across that rail, because balance and loads of parkour is about learning to trust your body, relearning to trust your body, and not about these specific details of techniques, which of course are important, but they're not the meat and potatoes, if that makes sense. Anyway, I'll be going into this topic way deeper in another video, but that's something that you need to pay attention to as well. Tip 5, the more variety, the better. So you want to be making sure that you go to different places, you train with different people, and that you try different moves regularly as you can, and spread yourself across the entire spectrum of parkour. Don't just focus on a specific little niche or a specific little move that you're really good at. You know, expose your weak points and train those, and just go for a massive variety. The thing is, if you are trying one specific technique over and over and over again, yes, that can have good results, but there's so much more transfer of ability when you are trying loads of different techniques, because it's your body learning how to deal with itself, rather than learning just like this one, like I was talking about earlier, and just your mind trying to conceptualize about this one thing. It's your body learning to move itself all in all. So new places, out of your comfort zone, lots of variety, and you'll progress a lot faster. Number 6, everything on both sides. This is something that every parkour athlete who has just drilled something on one side knows. When they're later in their career, they're like, make sure you drill stuff on both sides. Take off your left leg, take off your right leg, land on your left leg, land on your right leg, twist left, twist right. There's so many different things that you can do left and right side. Just make sure that you try and train both sides. Give yourself a good chance of being nice and balanced rather than imbalanced, and not being able to take on certain challenges because your right side is way weaker than your left side, for example. So just everything on both sides. Number 7, something I go on about all the time: stretch, recovery, mobility. You need to learn this early on. We've got a lot of videos on this channel that can help you with that, but we've got loads more coming. You need to make sure, especially when you're just starting parkour, that you're stretching after every session, you're mobilizing before every session, and that you're doing work outside of parkour to make sure that you're recovering and aligning properly. Parkour is the most amazing tool, and the biggest thing that you'll get from parkour is the mindset and what you're eventually capable of doing, and what you've shown yourself that you're really capable of doing. But your body will hold you back if you don't take care of it, and if you don't pay attention to it. And you might not feel it even in your first year, your first 2 years, but it will be backing up. Your body can take so much, and you won't really realize that it's doing any damage, because the pain signals come a lot later than when the actual damage has been done. So pay attention to your body now, even if you don't think you need to. It is your instrument, you have to take care of it, or you won't be able to do parkour, and that's the end of it. Take it from someone who didn't know about this and really would have benefited from it. I've spent years out because of my knee, and I want to stop you guys from doing that. So please heed the warning. Stretch and recover, make sure you're on it. Number 8, you want to try and make sure that you develop a flow and you don't get hung up. So a lot of beginners, what they'll do is they'll be on one particular move, and they'll be like hammering it out, and they'll be doing their best with it, which is fantastic, but then they'll like hit a block with it, and they'll just keep smashing themselves against the metaphorical wall, and like not be able to do it, just be shy of the jump, just like not quite make it, and all this sort of stuff. And you wanna, when you're really starting out, and like even when you're more advanced, it's like you hammer something out for a little bit, and really try, you know, put your full effort in, but recognize when it's time to move on to something else. Don't ruin your session, don't get angry, don't start kicking walls and stuff like that. You know, just be happy with where you're at, be happy with what you can do. Move away from something that you can't do yet and go and focus your energy on something else, because you'll progress over there and then you'll come back and you'll be able to do this. It's not linear. Parkour, I used to think of it as such a linear thing, and I would just concentrate on one jump only, and it's like, it was so silly of me. It wouldn't work. You need to just massive variety. Like I was saying earlier, a lot of variety, and just flow with your session. Hammer something out. If you can't quite make it, move on. Keep progressing. Do that by moving on. Develop a flow. Don't get hung up. And the final tip is to just make sure that you don't be shy and you always try. And a lot of people, when they go to jams or something like that, you know, they're around better free runners, they get very stifled because they can't quite do what the other people are doing. They're very like overwhelmed with it. We've all been in this position. Everyone has been next to a free runner who is much better than they are, and it's always very intimidating, especially if you're just starting out. But you need to get that out of your mind, and you need to just concentrate on what you're doing and just try. Just like be there and try at your level, do what you can do, and don't be shy to join in with challenges that other people are doing and give it a go. Even if you don't quite think you're ready, most free runners are just super friendly and they'll help you out, and they'll be like, you know, they'll give you tips on what you're trying. Don't obviously go over to a challenge that you're just absolutely nowhere near ready for and interrupt other people's sessions. But if you're roughly at that ability, you know, if you're not quite sure, just go and try and do your best to not shy away from challenges. Get out of that comfort zone. All right, guys, I really hope you enjoyed this video. That's all I've got for you today. Make sure that you hit that subscribe button if you don't want to miss more videos like this that can help you learn parkour, that's going to help you as you progress through your parkour journey. We're going to be covering way more advanced topics, and we're going to have a lot of the beginner stuff as well. And then obviously on Tuesday, we always have our Parkour Journeys vlogs, where you get to see us go out and travel around from town to town, learning from new people, new places, how we're overcoming our own mental barriers. You get to see that in real life. So make sure you subscribe, and I will see you next time, guys. Much love. Thanks for following Parkour Journeys. We love every single one of you, and I'll see you next time.